The Chakralytics Show.
Namaste and welcome. Forming disease through a yogic lens. In this video I would like to dive into my perspective on how disease is formed based on lived experience and based on teachings from Kashmir Shaivism, from Dual Shaiva Tantra, and the studies that I've done also within classical yoga teachings. And this is my unique perspective based upon these teachings, and it's a contemplation, so it's for informational purposes, and I would like to invite you to have a open mind, a skeptical open mind. Krishnamurti says beautifully, please accept nothing of what the speaker says, nor reject it, explore it. And that's my invitation to you, just to listen openly and explore what I am explaining here and telling here. If any questions arise during this video, I warmly invite you to ask these questions in the comments below. And if you like the content that we're creating, I warmly invite you to like and subscribe. Thank you. So to dive in this topic, I think we first need to dive a little bit in the reality, the vision of reality of mostly classical yoga or tantric non-dual Shaiva Tantra classical perspectives, and the degrees in the body, and going from gross body to subtle to, well, in yoga, in classical yoga, we have a gross body, subtle body, causal body, and then we merge into infinitude, in God's consciousness, in the ocean of consciousness. And Chitananda, consciousness, bliss, and or Shiva. And okay, so first of all, what I would like to do is to dive into the subtleties. So if we would say in Kashmir Shaivism or in non-dual Shaiva Tantra, the whole manifestation, whole reality, the whole manifestation of phenomenal manifestation, we could say is an emission of Shiva, an emission of the divine. It's like this. It's like an outpouring of the divine, and that creates and manifests in all these phenomenal experiences. But it pours out of that source of infinite potentiality. So Shiva, and while it pours out, is while he's pouring out this overflowing of consciousness, in this act of creating, the whole manifestation, he veils himself, his essence nature, the nature which contains all diversified manifestation, to appear as diversity. So it's through his power, so through Shakti. One of the essential powers is Maya Shakti, and it reveals its own true nature to appear as diversity, but underlying it's always still Shiva. All is Shiva, so all is still consciousness bliss. So this is a very beautiful and important insight, because in the teachings we often have layers of reality, layers of what we could say perception, but layers of reality, and they go ever deeper into the essence. So back to Shiva. So Shiva has never lost his nature when he was creating this whole manifest universe. It's only an appearance of diversity. It's only a veil of ignorance. And we can see this in a lot of different concepts. So, for example, if we look at linguistic mysticism, that is very that's in the Trika school, and we talk about the levels of speech, we can see that on the mundane level of speech, Vaikari level of speech, it's the level of words. Then we go deeper into essence. We go to the, if I'm saying it correctly, Madhyama level, and that's the level of the mind chatter. Then we go even deeper. We go more into essence. It's the level of Pashanti. It's where we hold deep internalized belief systems, and then we go even deeper, and then we go to Paravak, where intuitive insight is, from which intuitive insight expresses, and it's also called the supreme word, from which everything emanates. So we could also describe this from linguistic mysticism, or a symbolic representation of how creation has manifested. If we go from essence, from Paravak, for example, all the way to Vaikari level, to the level of the words, we can say it starts with phonemes. The building blocks, I'm talking now about the building blocks of reality. It starts with phonemes, then it forms words, and then it forms sentences. So it's like this that that creation unfolds. You know, all these different formations of vibrations, and all these contractions, and that resonate into formations, and that start to create all these diverse experiences and manifestation. But in essence, when we dissolve these contractions, these contracted forms of consciousness that appear as diversity, underlying it all is still consciousness bliss, is still Shiva, the Shiva nature of reality, the unity, that it is all one big mass of consciousness bliss. So we can also see this in the Trika, in Para, Parapara, and Apara. These are the three goddesses that are being worshipped within the Trika. And Apara is the goddess that stands for diversity. That is what we can say the most tangible level, or the most superficial level of reality that we can see around us and experience. and that is that diversity level, and when we are very attached to diversity and we see everything in diversity, we can experience it as scary and like competition. But when we experience it as an emission of Para, which is the supreme goddess, we can experience it as Para, and Para is the middle goddess. We can see that everything that is manifested, all phenomena, is in reality an emission, an expression of the supreme goddess, of Para Devi. And by knowing this, by knowing this reality, seeing this reality, we can experience Para, unity in diversity. We can see this whole manifestation, but we experience the underlying unity, and that it is all an emission of consciousness bliss, that it is all an emission of Shiva, that it is still Shiva, Shiva Shakti, and playing this divine dance. So we also have the 36 Tattvas. The 36 Tattvas, and it starts with Shiva, and the 36 Tattva is all the way down to earth. And the Tattvas also go from, so these are levels of reality used in Kashmir Shaivism to describe the levels of reality, and they go from Shiva, the subtlest, all the way down to the grossest level of reality, the most tangible level of reality. And the more subtle levels are said to contain these gross levels within them. So it is a more absolute level of reality. So I hope this lands a little bit. This was a philosophical viewpoint of this, but I will now make it a little bit more practical for us to understand what this could mean. So what this may mean for the forming of disease, and for releasing contractions, and self-healing. So if we look at the in classical yoga, we have, for example, the gross body, the subtle body, the causal body, and they go even there also deeper into essence. They align a little bit with, or they align a bit with the four levels of speech. What I would like to do now is to point to the gross body, or what we can experience in our experience, we may see as a reflection of what we hold within. What do I mean with this? If we look at, for example, water, when we look at a pond, and I think it's called a snapper in English. If a snapper is hunting in the water, we can see ripples on the water, on the pond, and these ripples on the water point that there is something deeper going on there underneath the surface. The same, I experienced this with disease, or with experiences within my field of awareness, within my perception, things that may come up. And if it is disease, it's something. If it is conflict with someone, or if it is something beautiful, or if it is all experiences that are coming up, we could say that these may be symbolic representations or pointers, teachers, I would like to call them teachers, to something, to a level that's going on underneath, that is beyond the surface. So, for example, if we experience disease in our physical body, really, we could say dis-ease, we maybe can focus on the energetic body or the subtle body, which we could say the gross level is like a representation of what we hold within us on a deeper level. So this could mean that we may experience physical disease, and this physical disease can point to contractions in our consciousness, in our awareness, in the form of stuck emotions, misaligned belief systems, samskaras, which we could translate to impressions from the past or traumatic experiences, and these would get stuck in our system if we haven't dissolved these, if we haven't worked through these or accepted them, that these experiences happened, or if they are not in alignment with our true nature. And these can form contractions in our system, and these contractions, so they form on a deeper level. I've talked about this in trauma healing and the 4 levels of speech in the video. I would highly suggest, if you haven't watched that already, to maybe pause the video here and watch that one first. That's why I am not seeing disease as something that I have to fight in that sense, or that I have to push away. I am experiencing disease as a teacher, as a pointer that points me to, okay, I'm experiencing disease, I'm experiencing this in this region or that region, and I literally go and ask it to where it points, to the deeper misaligned belief systems I hold, the deeper stuck emotions I hold, the deeper traumas that are perhaps causing this disease to form. And I would work on these underlying belief systems. And for me, this is what I would like to share, and this is what I have experienced with past diseases and experiences of disease, and I have been able to dissolve where I felt blockages, where I felt contractions, and where I experienced disease on that level, and I experienced a lot more freedom again, and it deepened my trust in consciousness healing, in going to those deeper levels of reality, aligning oneself with our true nature. And I can see this supported in the yogic text, that in this way we can end suffering, in this way we can dissolve disease. But I like to be very careful with saying this, Of course, I think everyone can understand, I think, why. But it's a belief that I have, and that has been evolving, and that has this trust has been deepening. And I warmly invite others to share their own stories with this. And this is really a contemplation and an explanation of myself, and I would like to invite this conversation and open this conversation on consciousness healing, self-healing, and instead of trying to look for comfort, I would say, instead of looking for comfort and suppressing the symptoms with medication, I think medication might be a beautiful solution for short. It may be a beautiful solution in some cases for for suppressing symptoms. It is, and to have a quality of life most of the time, to enhance their quality of life. But there's always a dependency on medication in that case. And to be completely honest, in my belief, I would embrace the symptoms and would ask them, where are these symptoms pointing me to, and work on the root cause. So what I said before, on the deeper levels of consciousness, the contractions, the traumas that could have been the cause of this disease forming. And by what I believe is that when we dissolve this root cause, why would disease be there? Why would these symptoms still stay there? These the symptoms, from my point of view, are just pointers, teachers, like, hey, we want some attention. We want to point you out that there is something happening here underneath the hood. It's like auspicious, like reality is auspicious, and it wants to show us where we can grow, where we can heal, where we can fall more in self-alignment. It's a totally other way of perceiving reality and perceiving disease, and embracing disease or the symptoms of disease as a teacher, and pointing us towards what's happening underneath, and what's happening in the depths of consciousness. So thank you. So this is what I wanted to share. I warmly invite you to engage in this conversation, and I would really like to connect and to open this conversation and this exploration of consciousness healing and self-healing. Thank you for watching. Again, a disclaimer, I warmly invite you to take responsibility in this, and my sharing is just based on personal experience, on lived experience, and on the teachings I've read, and what I believe to be true and what feels true to me. But I can also sense that this is very vulnerable ground to step on, and so what I would perhaps like to share a little bit is that there's a teaching on from Advaita Vedanta, And Advaita Vedanta says there, it's about a snake, that there is a rope on the road or outside. There's a rope lying, and a man passes it, and he mistakes the rope for a snake, and he gets very scared. And in reality, it's just nothing but a rope. And Advaita Vedanta says this as well about reality, like we're mistaking reality for all this Maya, these different kind of forms, but in reality it's just consciousness, it's just Brahman. It's not real, it's not, yes, so it's just consciousness, I could say. In Kashmir Shaivism, it points a bit differently. It says that if we look at the rope, we mistaken it for a snake. It can be very real for the person who mistakes the rope for a snake. His heart will race, and he will experience fear. And in the same way, reality could be like this, like an expression of consciousness, and it can be very real, but relatively real according to the beliefs we have of that reality. So what I mean to say by this is that if I experience something as very frightening or very scary, or I hold certain beliefs, I will now, for example, I've talked in a video earlier about food intolerances, and I would have severe reactions on food, and felt very contracted. It felt very hard to digest the food, and there was a lot of fear around food and around other topics that were related to eating and digesting, and so at that point it felt very real to me. That was my reality. That was the reality I lived in. I had to drink shakes to maintain energy level, and it was very hard for me to eat certain kind of foods. But once I released these contractions and misaligned belief systems and underlying traumas or samskaras or stuck emotions, it would dissolve, and now I just eat what comes into my experience again, and it's completely fine. So in this way, I would like to address that when we feel disease and we are in that reality, it is our reality at that moment in time, and we can experience it as very real. And it may be beneficial in those cases to go on medication to help cope with that reality, with that life. But it doesn't have to be, from my point of view, absolute reality. It doesn't have to be the absolute truth. It's just the belief systems you're buying into, the trauma that is currently apparent in your body, that is currently stuck in your system, the misaligned belief systems, the fears, the stuck emotions, the things, the samskaras, the karma or samskaras that you hold within. And this truth is relative, and it's my belief that we can dissolve this, and my on lived experience that we can dissolve. So it's like a box that you're living in, this reality box, And we can expand this. We can expand this box to what I believe. And by working on these deeper layers, releasing these belief systems, these fears, these stuck emotions, we can experience a lot more freedom again. And our reality, we can change our reality, the contracted reality that we live in. We can expand our reality into more freedom. I hope this lands, and I think it's a good point to stop, but I can imagine that a lot of questions arise, or reflections on this video, so I warmly invite you to ask questions in the comments below, it's my intention to reply to these questions and to open discussion as well. And we have created Chakralytics, a platform for self-analysis and for self-exploration and self-alignment, with this purpose, the purpose of self-exploration, of self-reflection and deep self-inquiry, to explore and discover where these contractions are, these deeper misaligned belief systems, these deeper stuck emotions, these deeper samskaras. And we provide a Chakra Sadhana course, a Chakra Sadhana practice, which may help dissolve these contractions and work on self-alignment. And we're creating a whole community there, so I warmly invite you to join us there as well. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. Bless you on your journey. Namaste.